From the outside, it's just another stone fortress perched above the rolling green hills of Ireland. But step inside, and the air changes. It's thick, charged, as if the walls themselves are remembering things they'd rather forget.
It was all peat and iron, so tell me more about the flying machines and the moving paintings. You want to learn our ways of modern sorcery?
It's not just a castle, it's a graveyard of memories. And the spirits that linger here do not rest quietly. Leap Castle's story starts with death before it even had walls. Two O'Bannon brothers, both desperate for power, decided the only fair way to choose a leader was to leap from the rocky cliff where the castle now stands. The one who lived would rule. That reckless challenge, that leap, gave the castle its name. From the very beginning, it was cursed by ambition and blood. When the O'Carroll family took control, the violence didn't stop. They were known for cruelty, their betrayal, and for turning against one another. Even within those thick, impenetrable stone walls, no one was safe. That energy, the rage, the fear, the betrayal, it all seeped into this castle's foundation. And if you believe what people have seen and heard since, it's pretty apparent it never left. Centuries later, in the late 1800s, Mildred Darby moved into Leap Castle with her husband. She was a writer and also a believer in the supernatural. While others might have avoided the castle's stories like the plague, she leaned into them, holding seances in its shadowy rooms, trying to speak to whoever or whatever still lingered in the castle. One night, she met something she could never explain. She wrote that it wasn't human, not even close. It just stood a few feet away, half hidden by the gloom. Its face, if you could call it that, looked like it was rotting. It was hollow-eyed and looked as though it was decaying while it was watching her. Then there was the smell, as she described it, the stench of a long-forgotten tomb. Mildred said the presence filled the room with dread so intense she couldn't move or speak. It didn't threaten her, it just stared. And when it finally vanished, she said she knew one thing for sure. It definitely wasn't gone. When her journals were published in newspapers, from that point on, Leap Castle wasn't just an Irish ghost story. It was the Irish ghost story. So the Bloody Chapel lies in the heart of Leap Castle, and its most famous haunting. During a service, one O'Carroll brother turned on another and struck him down at the altar. It was quick, in front of the entire congregation, and brutal. His blood covered the congregation and the stone walls, and it is said that that room has been cursed forever. Visitors today say they can still feel the weight of that brutal act when they step inside. Candles flicker on their own, shadows crawl across the room when no one is moving, and some people hear whispering, soft and angry, like someone is arguing in the room next door. Every now and then, people claim to see the outline of a priest standing at the altar, swaying silently, as if he's hoping to finish a sermon that his brother interrupted. Next to the chapel lies something truly terrible. It's a trap door, but beneath it is a pit, and that pit is called an oubliette. It also means a place of forgetting. The O'Carrolls used this pit to dispose of prisoners, rivals, and sometimes just people they didn't like. The victims were dropped into this narrow hole of spikes and left in the darkness, until eventually the silence swallowed them. When the chamber was rediscovered centuries later, workers filled several carts, yes, carts, with bones, entire cartloads. Some still had fragments of clothing and jewelry. Apparently, the air in that chamber is said to be so heavy that visitors sometimes get sick before they even realize where they're standing. Ghost hunters describe it as alive with pain. People have heard faint moaning coming from below the floorboards and felt something brush their ankle, even when the room is completely empty. The ghost you're most likely to hear about is the Red Lady. She appears tall, graceful, and impossibly pale, her crimson gown trailing like smoke. In her hand, she carries a dagger, though she rarely raises it. Eyewitnesses describe her as devastated, hauntingly sorrowful. Her eyes are dark, sunken, and fixed on something that apparently only she can see. According to legends, she was once a prisoner here, who had her children taken away, a young woman who suffered at the hands of the castle's masters. When her story ended, it definitely wasn't in peace, and they say she still walks these halls searching for what she lost, her children, or perhaps those who took them. The ghosts of Emily and Charlotte are perhaps the strangest of all, because people claim they feel alive and they think they still live there. Emily is said to have fallen from the battlements or roofs long ago. She was young, barely a teenager. Visitors have seen her repeating that fall over and over again, a figure in light clothes tumbling through the air and vanishing before she hits the ground. Charlotte is usually nearby as well, a smaller girl with a limp, a leg dragging behind her. She's often seen clutching a doll or a teddy bear and reaching out for her older sister. Some visitors have captured what looks like small handprints pressed into the dust of the stairs when no one else was in the castle. Witnesses report laughter echoing down the corridors, the sound of running feet, or the sudden scent of fresh-picked wildflowers when no windows are open and no flowers are near. Others have heard a single sharp scream, possibly the sound of a fall that never seems to end. Of all of Leap Castle's spirits, none are as feared as Mildred's elemental. And it doesn't look like a ghost. It doesn't behave like one either. It's described as something between a shadow and a corpse, a presence that brings nausea, dread, and an instinctive sense that you're being hunted. Mildred Darby's sighting wasn't the last. Others have seen it too. A shape moving in the corner of their eye, followed by an overwhelming stench of decay. Some say it manifests as a dark mist that forms into human shape. Others, a tall, hunched figure with rotten flesh and deep, burning eyes. People who encounter it describe their bodies going cold, their hearts pounding, and the unshakable feeling that the air itself is somehow turning against them. It doesn't speak, it doesn't chase, it just watches. And then, it's gone. And somehow the silence feels worse than the sight. Some say it was summoned centuries ago through a ritual. Others believe it's something ancient, a creature born from the cruelty and blood that has soaked this ground. Whatever it is, the elemental is the reason some investigators refuse to ever return. Even today, Leap Castle is not quiet. Musician Sean Ryan, who owns it now, says he's seen the doors open on their own and heard voices whispering through locked rooms when no one else is home. Visitors have heard footsteps above them when the upper floors are empty, and one guest said they felt cold breath on their neck, accompanied by a low murmur of their name, though no one else was around. Ghost hunters describe this place as one that responds, as if the castle itself is listening. Sometimes nothing happens for hours, then suddenly, the temperature plummets, a door slams shut, and every camera battery seems to die at once. Leap Castle's ghosts obviously aren't just stories, they're echoes, patterning, replaying themselves through the centuries. A brother betraying his own blood, a prisoner searching for the mercy and revenge of her children, a child frozen in a cyclical moment that never ends, and something darker, older, watching from the shadows. So what is Leap Castle? A crumbling ruin filled with superstition? Or a doorway where Ireland's most violent history still breathes? If you ever step inside, listen carefully. You may hear laughter. You may hear weeping. You may hear a whisper that happens to already know your name. But when you leave, if you feel like something's following you, don't turn around. We'll see you on the next one.